The
We must
galaxy was
protect the
wide,
galaxy
full
from
of
this threat
stars,
before it's too
worlds,
late.
and endless
The
life.
fate of worlds
But in
hangs
this
in the
galaxy,
balance.
there was one name that made every planet tremble. The name of the Zirith Empire. The Zirith Empire ruled for centuries. They had ships larger than cities, weapons brighter than suns, and soldiers who never questioned orders. Wherever they went, resistance was crushed. Entire worlds burned, entire races vanished, and no one, not even the bravest warrior, dared. To stand against them, to speak against the Zirith was death. To rise against them was madness. Even the strongest alien nations bowed, paying tribute, offering their children as slaves. Because it was better to serve than to be destroyed, the Empire's fleets filled the skies of every conquered world. Dark metal giants covering the stars, people would look up and whisper, "No one can fight them. No one can stop them. They are gods." But deep inside those whispers lived something else. Not just fear, but a small question. What if someone tried? In the council chambers of the Empire, alien lords sat in thrones of crystal and fire. Their voices cold, their laughter cruel. They spoke of victories as if they were nothing. They spoke of death as if it was sport. One commander said, "Another. Rebellion on Kareth. We burned it to ash." Another replied, "Good. Let it be a lesson." None can challenge us. The council agreed. None could challenge them. None would ever dare. In the shadows of the galaxy, oppressed races watched and waited. They had no fleets, no weapons, no courage left. All they had were stories. Stories of an ancient people who once walked among the stars. A people who fought until their last breath. A people called humans. But the council laughed at those stories. The Terrans? Lost, extinct, forgotten, they said. They are myths told by slaves to give themselves false hope. The Empire believed humans were gone forever, and for centuries they were right until one day everything changed. It started with a signal at first. It was nothing, just a flicker on scanners. A strange reading from the edge of a war zone. The Empire's fleets had gathered there, ready to crush another week. Rebellion. The commander of the fleet frowned. His officers checked the data again. "It's strange," one said. "Something large is approaching, larger than any ship we know." The commander laughed. "Perhaps another desperate fleet, another group of fools. Let them come. They will die like the rest." But deep in his chest, he felt something. Something he hadn't felt in centuries. It was not fear yet, but it was close. The fleets turned their weapons toward the unknown. The sky was filled with engines, cannons, and endless power. Thousands of ships ready to fire. And then the darkness split open. A massive shape emerged from hyperspace, slow, silent, heavy. It was not sleek like the Empire's ships. It was not elegant or beautiful. It was brutal. Built for one thing only, war. The alien officers gasped. "What is that?" The scanners tried to read the name on its side. Old letters burned against its armored hull. And then they saw it, clear as day. Terran Battleship. For a long moment, silence ruled the Empire's fleet. The laughter stopped, the arrogance froze. Every soldier, every officer, every commander stared at the name they thought was gone. The name they thought was only myth. Terrans. The commander's hand shook as he gripped his chair. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are extinct." But the ship was real. The guns on its hull were real. The dark steel that shone with scars of 100 battles was real. And worst of all, the feeling that spread across the Empire's fleet was real. Fear. The ship did not move fast. It did not fire. It only stood in the void, like a predator watching its prey. Every alien heart pounded. Every thought repeated the same question. Why have the Terrans returned? The commander tried to sound strong. "One ship, that's all. One ship cannot fight an empire." But even he did not believe his own words. Because he knew history, he knew the legends. Terrans never fought with numbers. They fought with will. They fought with fury. They fought with a fire no empire could crush. And now, as fire had returned, the battlefield went silent. Every alien waited for the first move. Would the Terrans speak? Would they fire? No one knew, but deep inside, every soldier, every commander, every ship felt it. The galaxy had just changed forever. And in the dark silence of space, the Terran battleship's engines glowed brighter. The war that no one thought possible was about to begin. The Terran battleship floated in the darkness. Its shadow stretched across the stars like a mountain drifting through the void. The Empire's fleet surrounded it. Thousands of sleek alien warships lined up in perfect formation, their weapons glowing, their engines burning, but none of them dared to fire first. The commander of the Zirith fleet narrowed his eyes, his voice sharp. "Scan that ship. I want every detail." His officers worked quickly, but the results made no sense. "Commander, its armor is layered with materials we don't recognize. Its hull is so dense our scanners cannot read through it." Another voice shook as it added, "Its weapons. They don't match any design in the known galaxy. They are old, but dangerous." The commander's claws tapped against his chair. "Old? Then it is weak." But even he did not believe his own words. The ship before him was old, yes, but it was not weak. It radiated power, a quiet, deadly power. The aliens had expected to see fear in the Terrans. They expected a message begging for mercy, but the Terran ship remained silent. No transmission, no retreat. Only the slow hum of engines as it drifted forward. The younger officers began to whisper, "Why are they not talking? Why are they not afraid?" Fear spread through them like poison. Finally, the commander growled, "Send a message. Offer them surrender. If they bow now, perhaps we will spare them." The message went out, carried by light across the void. It reached the Terran battleship. Every eye on the Empire's bridge watched, waiting for an answer. A long silence followed. Then the comms cracked alive with a deep human voice, calm and steady. "We do not surrender." The voice said, "We are Terrans, and we are here too. Remind you what fear feels like." The words struck harder than any weapon. The alien officers froze. Their hearts pounded. The commander's face darkened. "Arrogant creatures," he hissed. "Destroy them. Show the galaxy their myths are nothing." The order was given. The Empire's fleet opened fire. Thousands of plasma cannons lit the darkness. Streams of energy roared across space and slammed into the Terran ship. Explosions flared across its hull. Smoke and sparks spread out. The aliens cheered. They believed it was over in seconds. But when the light cleared, the Terran battleship still stood. Its shields had flared. Its armor had burned, but it had not fallen. It had survived the full power of the Empire's first strike. The commander's claws tightened around his chair. "Impossible," he whispered. His officers trembled, staring at the ship that refused to die. Then, for the first time, the Terran battleship moved. Its massive guns rotated, slow and deliberate. Its targeting systems locked onto a Zirith destroyer. A beam of light cut across the void, silent, precise, and merciless. In one instant, the destroyer was gone. Not broken, not crippled, simply erased from existence. The alien crews gasped. Fear spread faster now. One shot destroyed a warship. Another beam fired. Another ship vanished. The Terran battleship did not spray fire wildly. It chose targets with calm precision. Every shot was death. Every shot was a message. The commander roared, "Focus fire. Destroy it now." But panic had already begun. Some captains hesitated. Some pulled back. Their perfect formation broke apart. Inside the alien ships, crews whispered to each other, "This is no myth. These are humans. The Terrans have returned." Fear turned to chaos. On the bridge of the Terran ship, the human captain stood tall, his eyes fixed on the enemy fleet, his voice steady as stone. "They wanted fear," he said. Then let us remind them. Asterisk, the battleship's engines burned brighter. The void shook with its movement. It cut through the Empire's fleet like a predator among prey. Alien ships scattered, firing wildly, but nothing stopped the Terran ship's advance. Each shot it fired carried not just power, but memories of Earth, of battles fought long ago, of a species that never surrendered. The Empire's soldiers, who had never known defeat, now saw it with their own eyes, and the sight broke them. The commander tried to rally his fleet, his voice shaking. It is one ship. One ship cannot destroy us. But even as he spoke, another of his cruisers vanished in a storm of fire, and deep inside, he knew the truth. This was not just a ship. This was a warning. The galaxy had forgotten humans, but humans had not forgotten. The galaxy, they had returned, not as victims, not as prey, but as hunters. The battle was only beginning, and already the Empire's greatest fear was becoming real. The Empire had never faced fear before. For centuries, their fleets moved like storms across the galaxy. They were hunters, and every other race was prey. Yet now, rumors spread like wildfire. Soldiers whispered in the dark. Commanders argued in silence. The word Terran had started to echo through every hall of the Empire, but no one truly understood what it meant until the alien spoke. The alien was not just any creature. It was one of the few survivors from a world the Empire had destroyed. Long ago, his name was Kale, and his species had once lived proudly on lush green planets. The Empire had burned his home to ash, and Kale had been taken as a prisoner, forced to serve as a translator and a tool of war. For years he had lived in chains, silent, waiting, watching. Now, when the shadow of the Terran battleship appeared on the edges of the battlefield, Kale's heart began to race. His eyes, once dull and broken, suddenly shone with fire. The commanders noticed. One of them, a towering insectoid general, with blades for arms, leaned close and hissed. "Why do you tremble, alien?" Kale's voice was low, but steady. "Because I know that name. Terran." The room grew cold. Even the strongest warriors leaned forward. None of them had heard this word before. "What are they?" the general demanded. Kale closed his eyes, as if reaching back into memory. His voice shook when he spoke again. "They are not like you. They are not like us. They are something else. When you look at them, you see only weakness. But you are wrong. I have seen what they do when cornered. I have seen them fight even when there is no hope left." The general slammed the table with his blade. "We have crushed thousands of worlds. What makes these Terrans different?" Kale's chains rattled as he leaned forward. His voice grew sharp. "They do not fight for empire. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for each other. And that makes them dangerous. More dangerous than anything you can imagine." The commanders laughed. A rumble of mocking voices filled the chamber. To them, it was absurd. How could a small, unknown species threaten the greatest power in the galaxy? But Kale did not laugh. His eyes glowed with something the commanders had not seen before: fear mixed with respect. He whispered, "You cannot break them. You cannot scare them. The more you push them, the stronger they become. If a Terran battleship has entered this war, then the Empire's time is ending." The laughter died slowly. The commanders exchanged uneasy glances. The insectoid general snarled, but even he looked unsettled. Outside the chamber, the Empire's fleet was preparing for another grand victory. Rows upon rows of ships lined up, their weapons ready, their banners bright. To them, the battle was already won. They had never lost before. Why would today be different? But Kale knew. Deep inside, he felt it. Something was coming. Something the Empire could not stop. That night, he sat in his dark cell, chains cutting into his wrists. He remembered the stories he had heard, whispers carried through smuggler networks and forgotten starports. Stories of Terrans who built machines out of nothing, who turned rubble into weapons, who survived disasters that should have killed them. One story rose above the rest of a single Terran ship that had once taken on an entire pirate armada and survived. Not because it was stronger, but because the humans inside refused to give up. Cale whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. They are coming, and when they come, the galaxy will never be the same. The next day, a ripple moved through the Empire's fleet. Their scouts had returned, their faces pale, their voices shaking. They spoke of a ship unlike any they had ever seen, dark, scarred, but still alive. It moved like a predator. Its cannons glowed with power dot, and at its core, the name was written in bold white letters. TSS Vengeance. The Terran Battleship had arrived. The Empire's admirals laughed. Again, but their laughter was hollow. The alien Cale only smiled in his chains, a sad, bitter smile. For he knew what they did not. The galaxy was about to learn the truth. The galaxy had always known fear, but it was a different kind of fear. It was the fear of the Empire, the kind. Of fear that came when fleets of steel-black warships arrived without warning, when cities burned in hours, and when proud rulers were forced to kneel before the throne. That fear was cruel but familiar, a rhythm of life that many had grown used to. You either submitted or you were destroyed. Simple as that. But now, something had changed. A new kind of fear was crawling across the stars, and it spread faster than fire in dry fields. Whispers traveled through trading stations, through encrypted military channels, through the drunken voices in alien taverns. And the whispers all carried the same unbelievable message. The Empire's fleet was stopped. The Terrans came. They destroyed the flagship. At first, no one believed it. How could a new species, unheard of until days ago, stand against the eternal Empire? The Empire had crushed thousands of civilizations, had erased entire planets for resisting, but the rumors did not die. They grew, multiplied, like a sickness. Each story added more detail. The Terran Battleship, black and silver, moving like a predator in the dark, its weapons tearing through the Empire's pride as if their ships were paper. On the trade hub of Zoreth Station, merchants closed their shops early. They argued in hushed tones. Should we cancel trade routes to Imperial worlds? One whispered, "What if the Empire blames us for dealing with humans?" Another muttered, fear of the Empire had always kept them obedient. But now they feared something else. The unknown strength of the Terrans on the war council of the Zarkol, a warrior race who had bent the knee to the Empire centuries ago. Generals argued until their voices became roars. One slammed his fist on the table, his scaled knuckles cracking the steel surface. "We should prepare defenses." Another shouted back, "No. If the Empire cannot stop them, what chance do we have? We should wait, hide, watch who wins." The fear was not just of the Terrans' power, but of what it meant. The galaxy had lived under one ruler for so long that no one had imagined rebellion. Now, with a single battle, the Terrans had lit a spark inside billions of hearts, and sparks had a way of turning into fires. In the Empire's own capital, the fear was worse. Officials moved nervously through glittering halls, afraid to speak. The Emperor had not spoken publicly since the defeat. The nobles whispered behind jeweled masks. Is the Empire still eternal? What if the Terrans come here next? Even the slaves, who had been silent for centuries, began to lift their heads a little higher. On distant mining colonies, children spoke of the Terrans as heroes. They pretended to pilot invisible ships and shouted, "We are Terrans. We fight the Empire." Their parents hushed them quickly. Terrified spies would hear, but in their hearts, even the parents dared to wonder, could the humans be different? Could they be saviors? Yet not everyone saw the Terrans as hope. For some, they were the beginning of the end, a storm that would swallow everything. The great priesthood of the Vayari declared in sacred temples, "The coming of the humans is a sign of the last war. The galaxy will burn." Across space, fear was not one shape. It was many, hope and terror, rebellion and doom, all tangled together. But one truth spread through every world, every council, every whispering crowd: the galaxy would never be the same again. The Terrans had arrived, and the Empire was no longer untouchable. The galaxy had never seen such a day. For centuries, the Zoroth Empire had crushed every fleet, every rebellion, every species that dared to resist. But today, for the first time, their enemy was not afraid. Today, they faced the humans. The battlefield stretched across the dark void of space, lit only by the glow of distant stars and the cold metal of warships. On one side, thousands of Zoroth battleships hovered. There, black hulls sharp like blades, their energy cannons glowing with deadly power. They were confident, as always, for they believed no one could match their strength. On the other side, only one ship stood, a Terran battleship, massive and ancient. Its hull scarred but shining with strange energy. The Zoroth commanders laughed when they saw it. "One ship against us? This must be a joke," they said, but the laughter soon faded. The Terran ship moved forward, slow but unstoppable, like a mountain drifting through the stars. Inside, the Terran crew was calm. They had trained for this. Their captain stood tall. On the command deck, his voice steady. "Today, the galaxy will know who we are. Today, they will know humanity does not bow." The Zoroth fleet opened fire first. Thousands of beams of energy shot across the void, painting the darkness with burning light. Planets shook in their orbits from the shockwaves. Other species, watching from afar, believed the human ship would vanish in an instant. But then something impossible happened. The Terran battleship's shields flared, glowing like a burning star. The energy attacks bounced back, deflected as if they struck an invisible wall of steel and fire. Some blasts even rebounded, tearing into the Zoroth's own front lines. Whole ships exploded before the eyes of their allies. The galaxy went silent. This was no ordinary defense. This was human technology unknown, terrifying, and beyond the imagination of the Zoroth. "Impossible," whispered one alien commander. "No one can block that much firepower." But the Terrans were not only defending. Now it was their turn. The Terran battleship's cannons glowed bright, not with ordinary plasma, but with something deeper, something older, a weapon that carried the force of stars themselves. The humans had taken the raw energy of suns and turned it into firepower. The first shot ripped through space like thunder. It tore apart an entire squadron of Zoroth ships. One moment they were there, the next they were scattered debris. The second shot carved through the Zoroth command ship, splitting it in half as if it were made of paper. Panic spread across the enemy fleet. They had never lost this many ships, not even in wars that lasted centuries. And here they were, falling. Apart against only one ship, the Zoroth commander shouted, "Retreat, regroup, surround them." But nothing worked. Every move they made, the Terrans answered with perfect precision. It was as if the human captain could see the battle before it happened. Other alien species, watching through hidden channels, felt their hearts race. For the first time, they saw hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, the empire that ruled them in fear could be defeated. But the battle was far from over. The Zoroth brought out their super weapon, a massive warship the size of a small moon. It was said to have destroyed entire civilizations with a single blast. When it appeared, even the Terran ship seemed small in its shadow. The galaxy held its breath. Was this the end of humanity? Or the beginning of something greater? The Zoroth super weapon charged. Its core glowed brighter and brighter, pulling energy from the stars themselves. The Terran captain narrowed his eyes. "Ready the final strike," he ordered. For this was not just a battle of ships. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy, the empire of fear, or the spirit of humanity. Only one would survive. And in the silence before the final clash, the galaxy understood a truth it had forgotten. Humans were not conquerors. They were survivors. And survivors fight hardest when all seems lost. The Terran ship fired. The Zorith weapon fired. Two beams of unimaginable power met in the void. The stars themselves seemed to tremble, and the galaxy watched, knowing history was being written in fire and light. The battlefield burned with fire and broken ships. The once great Empire's fleet was scattered like dust in the wind. Pieces of their war machines floated in silence, glowing faintly in the cold emptiness of space. The Terran Battleship stood alone at the center, its armor cracked, but still. Alive, still unbroken. The alien commanders watched in disbelief. For centuries, no one had ever forced them into retreat. No one had ever dared to push them this far. But now they stood on the edge of defeat. Inside the Empire's command hall, voices rose in panic. "We cannot allow them to live," shouted one general. "If the Terrans survive, the galaxy will turn against us," another warned. "But we cannot defeat them. Look at their ship. Even damaged, it still destroys us." Fear had turned into desperation. The Empire's rulers whispered about their last option, an ancient weapon, one they had sworn never to use. A weapon that did not just kill armies, but burned entire stars. One elder spoke, his voice trembling. "If we release it, worlds will die, millions will vanish. But if we do not, our empire will collapse." Silence filled the chamber. They all knew the truth. It was their last choice. Far away, aboard the Terran Battleship, Captain Halley stood at the bridge. His ship was wounded. Many of his crew were gone. Yet his voice was calm. His eyes burned with determination. "They are afraid," he said softly. The officers around him looked at one another. "Captain, what will they do?" "They will choose between their pride and the galaxy itself," Halley answered. Then a warning came through the sensors. A massive energy surge was forming in the Empire's core system. It was no ordinary weapon. The reading shook the crew to their bones. "They're going to destroy everything," whispered a young officer. "They would rather burn the galaxy than lose," another muttered. Halley clenched his fists. He had expected this. Humans knew the arrogance of empires. They had seen it before on Earth, in their own history tyrants who would rather see the world in flames than admit defeat. The Terrans had one final card to play. Hidden deep inside their battleship was something no alien had ever seen. The Helios drive, a weapon of unimaginable power. But to use it meant sacrificing the ship, and everyone aboard. The crew fell silent as Halley stood. His voice was steady, but heavy with weight. "We can run. We can save ourselves. But if we do, billions across the galaxy will die. We are Terrans. We do not abandon others. We fight, even if it costs us everything." One by one, his crew rose to their feet. No one spoke of escape. No one begged for safety. They all understood. Humanity's strength was not just in weapons or ships. It was in their hearts, in their refusal to bow, in their choice to fight for more than themselves. "Prepare the Helios drive," Halley ordered. The crew moved quickly. Lights dimmed. Ship trembled. The stars outside seemed to bend, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. At the same moment, in the Empire's War Council, the rulers prepared to unleash their forbidden weapon. Their hands shook as they activated it. The galaxy waited in silence. Two powers, both holding destruction, both ready to make their last choice. And then, a signal cut across the Empire's communication channels. A human voice, calm, This ends now. The Terran Battleship began to glow with a blinding light, brighter than the suns around it. The Empire's leaders froze, terror spreading through their veins. For the first time in their history, they hesitated. The humans had chosen sacrifice over surrender, and the galaxy would never forget it. The galaxy stood in silence. The great battle was over, but the memory of it still burned in every mind. Across shattered worlds and broken fleets, one truth became clear. The Terrans had done the impossible. They had faced the Empire that no one dared to fight, and they had not only survived, they had won. The alien rulers, once drunk with power, now whispered in fear whenever the word human was spoken. Their armies were shattered, their pride was broken, and their control over the galaxy crumbled like ash in the wind. The empire that once declared itself eternal had met its end not by another great power, not by endless fleets, but by a species that had been underestimated from the very beginning. The Terrans, the so-called fragile ones, had changed the story of the stars forever. In the aftermath, the galaxy expected the humans to claim thrones, to demand tribute, to enslave and conquer as the Empire had once done. But instead, the Terrans did something no one could have predicted. They rebuilt where others would have sought revenge. The humans offered aid. They sent ships not filled with soldiers, but with doctors and engineers. They helped heal worlds burned by war. They restored water to planets that had been poisoned. They gave food to alien children who had once looked at them with fear. The galaxy did not understand it. How could the victors, the new rulers of the stars, choose mercy over conquest? But that was the legacy of the Terrans. In every corner of the galaxy, stories spread. A reptilian child saved from hunger by a human pilot. An avian scholar who was given books and knowledge instead of chains. An insectoid queen who saw her world rebuilt by human hands. These stories traveled faster than light, and soon the galaxy spoke not of the fear of humans, but of their strength wrapped in compassion, their power balanced by mercy. Yet the Terrans were not naive. They knew the galaxy would never forget what they were capable of. They knew that if anyone tried to rise again with cruelty and domination, humanity would stand once more. And this time, no empire, no fleet, no tyrant would dare to test them. Generations later, alien historians would argue about the true reason the humans won. Some claimed it was their strange ability to endure pain and loss. Others said it was their creativity, turning scraps into weapons and broken chairs into deadly spears. A few whispered it was something deeper, something in their spirit, a defiance that no enemy could ever crush. But in the end, the truth was simple. Humans fought not for glory, not for control, not even for revenge. They fought for each other, for their families, for their children, for the freedom to live without kneeling to tyrants. And that made them unstoppable. The last emperor of the galaxy, before being dragged from his throne, had screamed a warning to the stars. You fools, do you not see? You cannot control them. They are not like us. They are not bound by fear. If you let them rise, the galaxy will belong to them. His words became prophecy. Centuries passed, and the galaxy changed. The ruins of the old empire became monuments, reminders of arrogance and downfall. At their center always stood a human statue, not of a conqueror, but of a soldier, scarred, weary, holding nothing but a broken chair-leg-turned spear. The plaque beneath it read, "They were underestimated," and because of that, they became legends. And so the galaxy remembered not just the war, not just the fear, but the choice the humans made after victory, to show the stars that strength was not only in weapons, but in will, not only in survival, but in kindness. This was the legacy of the Terrans, the species that no one dared to fight, the people who turned fear into respect and respect into legend. The galaxy never forgot. And somewhere, among the stars, the whispers continued. Whenever tyranny rose again, Whenever darkness crept across a world, whenever someone asked, "Who will stand against?" The answer was always the same. Perhaps the humans.